And we're live. We're live here at Litmus Gallery and Studios. And this morning I have the pleasure of interviewing artist Natacha Sochat.
Yes.
And it's Natacha, like cha-cha-cha,
Yes.
not Natasha.
Yes, so generally people always say Natasha, and I'm fine with that, so,
Yeah.
but technically it is Natacha.
Okay, well, and actually we have her beautiful artwork behind us. She is one of the artists in our current show, Anything Goes. And actually tomorrow night is First Friday.
Yes.
And we'll have a wine reception here from 6 to 9. So come down and see the work and see the other 40 plus artists' work that we have in the show, all local artists, and it's a wonderful show.
It is a wonderful show.
Yes, yes.
I'm delighted to be in it, and thank you
Yeah.
for having me over to speak with you.
You're welcome. Yes, you were in our last show as well. So that's
Yes.
how I sort of got to know you. I don't know Natacha very well, so I'm going to get to know her a little better this morning, and so are you. And she has a fascinating background. So
Yes,
I have
interesting,
very,
unusual
very
background.
unusual background.
Yes.
Exactly. So the first point that I noticed is she is a medical doctor.
Yes, I have an undergrad degree in biology and a master's in studio art and a doctorate in medicine. And I was always an artist, but I'm the first educated person in my family, so I didn't feel it was responsible for me to just go ahead and do art because it wasn't reliable. And so my love for healing people, you know, took me to medicine. And what I did later on was I rewarded myself because I continually did art, except for the training period in medicine. I rewarded myself and worked towards trying to get into a master's program, which, you know, wasn't straight on because I didn't have an undergraduate degree in art.
That's just crazy. So you were the first officially educated person in your family, and boy,
Yes.
is she educated.
Yes.
I would say above and beyond.
I suppose technically, but you know, having an education doesn't always mean you're a critical thinker.
Yes.
You know, so we need to nurture everyone's ability to think about things beyond what they're spoon-fed.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
Yes, and she has some really interesting articles at her website. So check out her website. We linked her studio Facebook page, but through
Yes.
that they'll be able to find you.
Yes.
Right. And she's
yeah.
also an art space artist, which we'll talk about
Yes.
a little bit later.
Studio 211 in Art Space, as well as I'm in 5 Points Gallery in Durham, which is a wonderful collection of local artists that you should visit.
Yes, and that's third Fridays. They have their celebration in Durham.
Raleigh is First Fridays, and Durham is Third Fridays. Thank goodness, so I could be at both.
Right. Yes. Yes. It's very conflicting when you have artwork at other places in
Yes.
Raleigh like here. So I'm glad that you were able to make time to come and talk with us today so people can get to know you here. So the other interesting thing is that she has spent some time in Cuba as a
Yes.
child and grew up in Manhattan. Is that
Yes.
right?
So I'll elaborate on that. I
Yeah.
was born in Manhattan, but my father was a revolutionary, and that's a long story, which we can talk about later. And at 4 months of age, I was flown to Cuba for my paternal grandmother, Balbina, to raise me until I was about 5 years old. So initially I was bilingual, but I probably spoke Spanish more frequently than English. And then after, at the age of 5, my parents took me back, and I started growing up in New York, and went to the Bronx High School of Science, and that's wound up working first before going to college. I worked in Berlin, Germany as a photographer for the German government. And then I decided to go to college and went to Boston University, where I got a degree in biology. But during this time, I was doing art, I should say. And then went on to medical school. And then after medical school, I did my master's, you know.
I bet you were a good doctor because you're an artist and you probably were very creative in your approach. I mean, I'm just pulling that out of nowhere, but I think you probably were very creative in your approach to healing.
You're observant. I have to say that being in both worlds, the art world and the medical world, gave me greater insight into people as a physician, and it gave me more empathy rather than being stereotypical. Does that make sense?
Right, or just material science.
Yes,
just
exactly.
You're a machine, this is how it
Yes.
works. You saw things differently as an artist. I would have to say that.
It made me less concrete.
Yeah.
Even though I had to be concrete. Well, medicine is not really science is not a concrete thing. Actually, science is an art, and it's only true to the period that right now things may be true, but next year could be different. So science is always changing.
Isn't that true?
So although people look at it, it has to be this factual thing, but it's only relatively factual until you know something more. And
that's true, and that's a fascinating way to look at it, right?
Yes.
So I like that. And you weave science into your work as well, so that's...
Yes. I guess the way that I view art, I view visual art as a language. And rather than, it can have words, but it's more than just words. It can actually span outside or envelope the sphere of words. But it has things in it that you can't put into words. You can try. We make artist statements. We go to all kinds of conniptions to try to give understanding. But the art is more than just words. It has things that are intangible, metaphorical. It has and it's part of our life. The more you have in your life, the richer your art becomes.
The more experiences,
Yes.
not stuff.
No, not stuff. No, stuff will bog you down. The
Yes,
more experiences
you have in
and
life,
people that
and
you know,
people
and
connections that you
and you
make.
have empathy for people that are different than you, that think differently. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with them, but at least you try to have understanding of them. So in that kind of very messy, non-linear existence, we create art.
Yes, yes, that's very true. There's a spirituality aspect to it all that sort of wraps it together and brings it out, and so, so sitting on the wall behind us is one of Natacha's works, and we have another little one here. Do you want to tell us about these eyeballs? I mean, they're fascinating. They're so colorful. They're really colorful and fun.
Yes, so this is part of I call them Eye Guy series, and they're about this big, and I originally made them a few decades ago as part of my thesis, because I created a neuromorphic universe. Neuromorphic meaning that it's like neurons that are connected, and morphic is just shape. So I actually view the world as being everything is connected.
Right.
And so that's why I called it the neuromorphic universe. And these eye guys were very tiny creatures, living beings that were standing in it, for me, because they all had personalities. Just, the challenge of creating a personality with just an eye, or just what the pupil does. Is it going to be very, constricted, or is it going to be really wide, which is a different kind of emotional, state? Your pupils can tell you what your emotional state is, or your drug state anyway. And are their lids fully open, or are they partially closed, or are they sleeping? So I created this world, and finally, I'm not doing the neuromorphic universe anymore. But this year, I decided that they needed to be part of. I made a painting that I call "I Am Witness," EYE, because of what's going on politically, and I'm always trying to. How can I say something political without being like,
polarizing, right?
Polarizing, or or thinking that I'm always right, because I'm not. I'm always changing, and I'm always open to learning. So I decided that I would make paintings that the challenge of how does a painting appeal to any age group, children and adults. How can you make paintings that will enthrall a viewer that's a child, but at the same time an adult? And so I decided that to give importance to these eye guys. So I brought them from this size to obviously this is 3 feet
really
high.
large.
And I have a 5-foot one as well. And so I made I have 16 that are finished, and I have 4 more to go that I'm working on, because I'm going to have a solo of them this coming summer at the Waterworks Visual Arts Center in Salisbury.
Oh,
so yes.
how
yes,
exciting.
Yes, it's very exciting. So they're what I love about them is not only trying to capture their personality with using a shoe or their hair, but then it gives me an excuse to make up a world around them. And as artists, we can say anything. We can create anything. We can create worlds that don't exist. So I'm sort of living not only in the world that's real, which we call, realism, but I'm also living in an abstract world. So if you take the eye guy out of the painting is still an abstraction. But it has space in it, so it goes between flat and spacious. I like to live in that world between space and no space. And of course, with these guys, I made them very colorful. And I don't know what color they're going to be until because most of the time, sometimes I use what color they are, but other times I don't like the color, and they've faded because they were made with Sculpey and glass. So I just changed their color. And then the world around them, I intuitively decide what colors will work best to make it an interesting painting without overdoing it.
Well, they really are fascinating. And I guess the eye is the gateway to the soul.
Yes. Well, I've always been really obsessed with the eye, but because for me, it's kind of a statement saying that I am, not only now I am witness, because that's a very famous saying, I am witness, I think it's in the Holocaust Museum at least. But it also references being self-aware, being aware of other things beyond yourself. So before that it became very political, it was much more like knowing the unconscious, knowing the self, as not all of us are interested in finding out about ourselves, but I have all my life tried to figure out what makes me tick, what trying to make sense of life.
The inner self.
Yes.
That's not on the exterior.
Yes.
So she creates these wonderful eye guys.
Yes, they're very whimsical.
Whimsical. So they would appeal to...
So you can call them paintings for children, but,
right.
In a very concrete way, yes, they could be, but they're more than that.
They're fun.
They're in both worlds at the same time.
They're in both worlds at the same time.
Yes, and that's the thing. They're fun, because I had just completed a whole retablo project last summer. I had a solo for all my retablos, which I have.
Okay.
Okay.
Hold on a second,
yes,
because
yes,
people might
yes.
not know what you're talking
Okay.
about. I didn't know what
Yes.
retablos were,
Yes.
so I actually have my iPad. I would
Here,
like to get it.
Let
Hold
me
this.
Okay. But I appropriated them to, rather than being religious, that they all say something that I may be insignificant, but yet I think is important in one way or another. So they're all saying things that are not religious, although I do have one that says God has no religion.
What about this one? This is an interesting one.
Yes.
So it's got pills and an eyeball.
Yes,
and
so
tell us about this.
So this
Here,
is
I'll
what
help
I
you.
was talking about, my always thinking that the eye itself is important because we're self-knowledge, the unconscious. So in this retablo, it's kind of complicated. A lot of them have rootlets, by the way, in the background. If you saw them in person, this brown, there's all these very textured rootlets making connections with a neuromorphic universe, but making roots as well. And then they have, like, for language, this is all like written in script, but it doesn't say anything. And then I have seeds and books because words are seeds. That's what it's really saying. Words are seeds. So I think that's what I called that one.
Wow, that's really interesting
everything
because
words
are seeds. Language is so
Yes.
powerful.
So words can be used to deceive us. And if something is said enough, what's a lie becomes a truth just because it's said so many times. So politicians use the self-fulfilling prophecy. So I'm so aware of that. But also, so we have to be careful. Not careful that we would be intimidated or repressed, but we have to be responsible, accountable for our words. And our society doesn't, freedom of speech is important, but I don't think that freedom of speech in the setting of irresponsible words that create havoc and are destructive are really a good thing for a society.
Yeah, freedom of speech is okay.
Yes.
Freedom of lies, no.
So right now we're having, a society that's full of tremendous number of lies and no way of
knowing the truth.
No, you don't. We're all confused. Sometimes I don't know who to believe.
Yeah. So you have to just be still and be in silence and find your truth that way, because you have to sort of wade through all of the words.
Yes.
As you say, it's just words.
Yes.
And
but they're seeds. They're gonna create things that maybe shouldn't be
created,
flourishing. So we have to be more responsible and picky about that.
And picking our language and what we say and do.
Yes.
So that's why we're here today.
Yes.
To share your artistic journey and to share art, because art is the truth in certain ways.
Yes, art is the embodiment of words, but more than just words, because it's emotions, it's philosophy, it's historical, familial, gender. All those things are in your art, one way or the other. Even if you're not conscious of it.
Oh, yeah, and they come out. Things just come out. So your whole history with your father being a revolutionary plays a part.
Oh,
that's
true. I think because my father was such an idealist, and he was Fidel's friend, and he helped the revolution, and he smuggled all the weapons that Fidel had from the United States so he could have the revolution. That's what my dad did. That's a long story, but what I learned from him, but he wasn't communist. The revolution wasn't supposed to be communist. It was supposed to be for democracy and a better social, financial system, but it didn't turn out that way. So my father left Cuba when I was in the 2nd grade, and didn't go back, because I'm not going to go into the whole history of why I think it turned communist and all that.
Right. But it touches your artwork.
Well, yes, because I really feel that society, I love the United States. I've always loved it because I am still very proud of the fact that we are allowed to say anything we want and not get shot. I mean, that always is unbelievable to me. But we have to still take care of that democracy, is what I'm realizing now. We can't just... I always took it for granted that there were going to be ethical people out there in powerful positions that wouldn't allow the things that are happening to happen. And then now we're living in a very different time. So
time of change.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But yes, it does impact on my art, in that I'm really very... In many ways, a lot of the things I say in my retablos, or I'm really conscious of social inequities. I want the middle class to be very successful. It's the middle class and everybody, not the uber rich that they have so much money that they can never spend it, even if they live 20, 100 lifetimes. It's the middle class that makes a strong economy, not some a guy who owns 20 companies and is trying to figure out how to get money out of them, so anyway, so I shouldn't
that's okay. That's okay, but it's interesting the way that our lives shape our art, and that's what we were saying earlier, so I wanted to sort of comb that out. Now, you've owned a gallery in the past, I saw. So that's interesting. So you were a gallerist, and you know what it feels like to be sitting on the other side.
Yes, so in 2009, a fellow master's student, both of us had been in the same class. We already had graduated a while. We decided we wanted to give voice to other artists who, because the art world is not necessarily giving voice to many artists as it should. There's too much. It's too complicated, which I won't go into that. So we wanted to give more voice to a lot of artists that we knew. So Kathy and I, we opened NKG Boston to start doing that, just to give voice to other artists. And it was a wonderful experience because we went to the artist studios. We helped them curate what work they would show. I wrote some of their artist statements because they didn't really know. I wrote all the media things. I did the website. I did all their images. They had to give me the images. I wasn't taking the picture because that would be crazy. But it was a wonderful experience, you know.
There's the sun.
Yeah. And you know, we also curated we were invited to curate then what happened, a lot of other things in the Boston area.
Well, that's really an accomplishment, and it's nice that you were, you know, giving artists a voice.
Yes.
It's sort of what we do here at Litmus. You know,
Yes.
we do that with our juried shows. So,
Yes.
and I wouldn't have met you otherwise.
Yes,
So I'm
yes.
really glad
We're
that we
all
did
connected.
that. Yes,
Yes.
yes. I'm really glad that it has worked out this way. So another thing that's interesting and fun about you, and I know nothing about gaming, but I saw the word gaming come up in your bio. So can you tell us a bit about how you're connected to gaming?
Yes. So I pretty much, as long as gaming has existed, I've been a gamer. And actually, initially, I was fascinated in it because I love the graphics. I love these immersive worlds that were done. Three-dimensional worlds that you can walk through, and then some of them really have ambience and they can really creep you out. I love that. So I probably, maybe in the so I've been a gamer for many, many decades. So, you know, sometimes I did first-person games, which used to be very popular. They're not as popular anymore because now we have predominantly, they do online gaming. So I've been an online gamer for since 1998, or maybe a little sooner, but 1998. And I still am, although I just recently in the last month I'm taking a break for the first time in years, only because I am so busy with so many deadlines that I could no longer. What happens is I have an avatar. My avatar is a priest. I'm a healer, while the rest of the people are trying to kill this monster. I have to keep them alive, and at the same time, things happen, and you have to run and go this way and that. It's very immersive, and there's all age groups. And I'm old, you know, technically by age, by number, not by spirit. Yes. So gaming is a very wonderful way to interact with other people. And it's just
fascinating.
So I've known people sometimes for decades, or at least 10 years or more, that I've never met in real life. And some I have met in real life, but some, you know, they live across the world in other places, and it's very fascinating. So the game I play predominantly is called World of Warcraft, for those of you who wonder.
Who are gamers.
Yes.
That's fascinating. So you spend a lot of time in an alternate universe of this game, but then you create your own alternate reality through your art, so that she moves between these planes of reality. And that's what it means, I think, to be an artist. You know, I always say my studio is like Jane's alternate reality. When you go in there, it's just, there are creatures that don't exist anywhere else, and it's really fun, isn't it? I'm so grateful.
Well, what I tell
so
children always
is
that the wonderful thing about being an artist is you can create a world that has no chance of existing. It doesn't have to obey the physical laws. Whatever your imagination, you know, whatever you want to create, it'll exist. If you're an artist, it'll create a feeling. It doesn't have to be realistic. It can just be colors and space. it's wonderful.
It
Yeah.
really is. It's fun. So what in terms of what could you share with other artists who may be beginning? I mean, you've had a long artist
Yes.
journey, and you.
Yes, I did it in an unconventional way.
Mm-hmm.
So, in real life, it's hard to make a living as an artist,
Mm-hmm.
enough to raise your family. So you have to figure out ways. Initially, when I got my master's, I thought that I would go then and become an academic. But there's very few academic positions. So what I tell new artists is that they should pick they should always do their art no matter what. But they should think practically and pick something that will allow them to do their art, but that will sustain them so that they can feel free in creating rather than thinking, oh, is this going to sell?
Yeah, that's
know.
the dreaded.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
yeah, that's
'Cause,
not good.
you know, what people want to buy sometimes is not really what you want to create, what really feeds your soul.
Right.
You know, so you have to find that authenticity. And it's okay to be, there's all kinds of artists. There's not only the, you know, what you would call fine artists, but there's graphic artists, there's computer artists. Actually, everything that we have in our society is art.
Is an art.
There's
yeah.
nothing that you can name that I don't see the connection to art, whether your sneakers or your shirt, your cars, your food that comes out on a plate. Many times it's beautifully done. Art is everywhere.
Art is everywhere,
Yes.
and you can, you know, gardening. I mean, we can just
Yes.
go on and on and
Yes.
on about how you can express yourself. So it may not be with paint or
Yes.
clay, but it could be with flowers, even
Yes.
just growing them or
Yes.
arranging them. I mean, it's endless. So
Yes,
just
so-
to bring that spirit of creativity
Yes.
into your life is so important.
Yes, art is the soul of society. You know, we can get up in the morning, brush our teeth, eat, you know, go to work, but without art, there's no soul. So it's a very important part of society, even if our society doesn't support it as much as other societies, and it should.
Yes. So now, speaking of teaching, are you going to teach at all here? I know that you said you landed here, so let me back up for a moment,
okay.
because I'm curious about,
Uh-huh.
you were in New Hampshire,
Yes.
and then you just sort of came here recently
Yes.
to North Carolina, and I'd like to know why.
Okay, so I was living in Massachusetts, and I decided I wanted to get away from the madding crowd, what I call it. I needed time to just think about the art and being away from the art world, I wanted my art to not get tunnel vision because I knew too much about the art world.
In New Hampshire.
In Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Yes.
Oh, that's right,
So,
where your gallery was. Mhm.
So we moved to New Hampshire, and I had a farm in New Hampshire, away from a lot of people, and I had chickens. I had about 3. I built my chicken coops. I had about 150 chickens, and I had guinea fowl, and they were lovely. And then one day, after having a few seasons of feet of snow, literally more than, and always wearing ice cleats because, you know, I had to take water to in the summer we had a pond, in the winter, which lasted forever, I had to bring water out. We went on vacation in January, and when we came back, and took us 2 hours to drive home in a blizzard, and I had just been at a place that was warm, and I'm saying, what am I doing here? Because my husband had to get out of the car and snow blow places that the guy hadn't done, and the snow blower broke, and I'm just sitting there at midnight saying, I can't stay here. And that's what happened. So we started researching and decided to, out of all the places, the Triangle area had a little bit of everything. Not too big, not so big that you would be swallowed, not too many cars, but diversity in age, diversity in education, diversity in ethnicity, diversity in finance, restaurants, museums, you know, it had
It's a really good place.
a nice art
We have a
community.
nice town.
Yes. So
And it's
then-
growing.
Yes, so in 2015 I moved to Raleigh. I'm very happy here, yes.
And you have your studio. She has a studio at Art
yes, I
Space.
have
We
a
mentioned
studio.
that earlier.
Yes,
Yeah.
Studio 211 in Art Space. And in August I joined 5 Points Gallery in Durham, which is 15 local artists from generally the Triangle, and they're a wonderful group,
Yeah.
very diverse.
I would recommend checking that out.
Yes.
So you can check out Natacha's work
Yes.
at Art Space. You can
Yes.
check it out at 5 Points Gallery, and we
Yes.
will have 2 of her paintings here through December 6th.
Yes.
And so my final word is, my final question is, so what's next for you? Do you have any?
Yes, I love to do installations, and I love performance art, because really we're always doing a performance as human beings, one way or the other. So my next project is, how do I create a room about the small room? I want the whole room to be the work of art. I want the whole room to be the retablo, rather than, and I use crochet, crocheting because it's by hand. As a drawing, it's drawing with the yarn, and ceramics, because I also do ceramics. So I'm going to be making, I haven't done it yet, but I started making ceramic objects that would be really tall, and from them crochet to the walls and the ceiling, and then of course have some things on the actual walls. But I don't know what it's going to look like because I haven't really done it. So that's the unknown.
The unknown.
Until I start-
Retablo. That's so cool. So this is like a room altar with
Yes.
with the priest who heals.
Yes.
So you could come to her retablo and
Yes.
she'll heal you.
I don't know what it's going to say. Right. Art is part of public health.
It is.
It's definitely. It is
It
a
really
healing.
is. It's a healing.
Yes.
Yes. I
So
mean,
for people who don't understand how a physician can be an artist, art is public health. Art heals.
art heals. It
Yes.
does. So we'll look forward to coming to your retablo. Am I
Yes.
saying that right? That is
Yes.
so cool. She is the neatest person. Aren't you glad that you tuned in to listen to
Yes, I'm so
Natacha?
glad to have it.
Natacha. So stop by and see us. Stop by and see Natacha. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience that maybe I didn't?
Please stop by and meet me. I would love to talk to all of you. I love to talk about art. I love to help people. I love to share everything that I know. I know a lot of processes. So stop by Art Space on First Friday, or find me at 5 Points Gallery on Third Friday, or text me, or whatever you do, and I would love to meet you.
Yeah. And downtown we have the circulator bus, the R line, for those of you who don't know. You can check it out online. It's the Raleigh Downtown Association. And the circulator bus is free. So parking is kind of limited downtown. But if you find a place to park, you can take the bus for free. And you could go to Art Space and the Contemporary Art Museum and
Yes.
311 Gallery and Litmus and just sort of make a night of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
'cause it's a very small area, so it's very doable.
Yeah,
and
you could even walk.
It's so
Yeah.
energetic.
Yes, it's a great city. So thank you, and we'll see you soon.